Hey, we're pressing pause in the morning. What's going on, Eric?
Hey, what's going on? And what is up, Pause Gang? It's your boy, Hey Zero, your hero.
How much coffee you consumed so far today?
just a single cup. I'm trying to get down to just a cup a day. It's hard some days. It's
Yeah,
hard some days.
I'm doing an herbal tea. That's all
Yeah,
about. It's called Throat Coat, which is fantastic
yeah.
stuff.
I love
And
throat coat.
I need to start doing the lemon though, because I learned a pro tip the other day.
Hmm.
That lemon eliminates mouth noises. So if you're talking into a microphone and stuff, like you don't hear all the saliva slurping around. So
Yeah, it's supposed to be good for mucus and all that too, which is why so many people do like a lemon tea during cold and flu season to help with that phlegm. Breaks it down.
there you go. So less mouth noise coming soon. Uh, Brought to you by Throat Coat.
Not a sponsor.
Not a sponsor. So if you guys are watching this, you're seeing some Lego Star Wars. We're gonna talk some Lego Star Wars. We're gonna talk some other Star Wars games. It'll be a short and sweet, nice small peepee in the morning, I guess.
Yep,
Is that what we're going with? Okay.
just a little peepee.
Yeah, just a little one. So you've picked this up on PS5, yeah?
I did, yeah, I did. And I think this is still going to be a fantastic Switch game. But the biggest thing, I was watching gosh, I don't know if it was Digital Foundry or not who did the comparison. I was watching someone's comparison, and the load times were really what sold me on the PS5 versus the Switch. So the load times are just dramatically better on the PS5. So it still looks very playable on the Switch, and it seems like a good Switch game. The Lego aspect of it, but yeah, I want PS5.
Yeah, no, I mean I'm on Switch just because, well, I talk more about Switch,
Yeah, sure.
but was hoping or wishing I was playing it on my Series X while I was playing it on Switch, just because just looked a little muddier, than
Yeah, definitely.
and I mean, I didn't know the load. I assumed load times were better. I just didn't know it. I
Yeah.
love this opening scene right here where I was like, "Oh, my color's off," and then it was like, "Oh wait."
Yeah, that was good. So have you played handheld and docked, or are you just done docked?
It does look better handheld.
Yeah,
Yeah, it
just
does look better handheld.
harder to tell.
Yeah, and OLED just kind of, I don't know. I feel
Yeah,
like it covers a multitude of sins somehow. I'm not really sure, but it seems to do that. So,
yeah,
uh,
for sure.
but I mean, fun game. I haven't had a ton of time to spend with it, honestly. Like what you guys are seeing as far as gameplay footage is basically what I've put into it, and but I really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
There's this crazy sense of nostalgia that I wasn't expecting from a Star Wars game. That
yeah,
or especially because of Lego Star Wars, but like all of a sudden it was like, yo, I remember doing this back on the OG Xbox, like, and just to see how they've evolved over time, I think has been really cool.
yeah, for sure. And I think the biggest thing, like the original Lego games, weren't voice acted, right? They just had text on the screen
That is
for the older
correct. Yeah.
ones.
Yeah,
I
that's
think
correct.
was it Lego City Underground was the first like fully voice acted game.
That seems probably about right. I mean, I haven't
Yeah,
really kept up with, unless it was like I have a handful of Lego games on the Switch just because of
yeah,
year one when I was collecting all the games. And the Ninjago movie was honestly probably the most solid.
mm,
It felt more like it honestly felt more like the Turtles games, like as far as like an arcade beat 'em up versus like
nice.
these are definitely more third person, almost like third person action adventure at this point, which they used to
Yeah,
be, the camera used to be fixed, and now
super far. Yeah,
yeah.
now you've got like that old over the shoulder, and you have a cover system. It's basically Gears of War.
It's
It's
Legos of
identical.
War. And that guy's wearing pajamas. If you guys are watching, you can see one of the
It's early in the morning. So yeah, let's talk about some of that, right? Like I love that they're true to the reference material, right? Like the story doesn't change. All the major plot points are going to be there. So if you love Star Wars, it's all going to be familiar. It's just they tweak like some of the lesser points and some of the dialogue. Like they do such a good job not just copying the source material. It's almost like Spaceballs.
Right.
You know, like they've done a amazing job. Well, Spaceballs wasn't as true to the reference material, but like they make it funny, they make it fresh while also keeping the major plot points. Like we're seeing Vader enter the ship, and that all kind of stays true to the iconic moments you remember. And then the dialogue will slightly change where something like happens that is silly and fun. So yeah, loving it.
Yeah, he gets his lightsaber stuck in the door right
Right.
here. You know, like
Yeah.
just so many goofy things that they're like, you know what? They just had a little bit of fun. He's like,
Yeah.
it appears to be stuck, right? Like it's so goofy, but I mean it works. It works
Yeah.
for a game, you know. And then even these sequences of like building stuff, like I had kind of forgotten that was like a thing that you did in these games, honestly. Like
Mhm.
I remember the original ones, it was just seemed like I just remember going and just hitting everything with my lightsaber or shooting it with my gun. You know, I know there was probably more to it than that, but it's been a long time since I played uh like the Lego Star Wars games anyway. So
Yeah.
but the amount of detail though, like seeing the helmets come off, seeing the faces underneath, there's different faces. They're not just all the same, you know, generic Lego man face, right?
Yeah.
Like I thought that was great. I even got a little stumped on one of the puzzles because I was missing the sparkly area I needed to stand in order to grab something and move it, you know.
Yeah.
So um
Was
I had to invert my controls, you know, because that's the right way to play any kind of shooter is
yeah,
inverted.
something like that. I like that you played the actual right way for quite a while before you gave up and inverted your control. You tried. You tried.
I was like, something is not right. And well, the problem is I switched it. I switched. This game is interesting because the menu was like invert controls, and I was like, yes. And then it didn't invert, and I'm like, what?
Oh,
So
was it just the flight controls you inverted or
I don't even remember. It was something like that. I had to scroll down further to it was like on foot camera invert, and I was like, oh my gosh, okay. I thought it was one of those scenarios where I hit A instead of B or B instead of A to confirm, you know. So
Yep.
but right there,
Yep.
did you notice that when I shot him in the foot, he grabbed his foot and hopped
Yeah.
on one foot? Like that's that Luigi's Mansion 3 level of detail, like where he, you know, it really feels like he's interacting with the environment, and that makes it that much more enjoyable. So
Yeah. The attention to detail was phenomenal and I like you know, if you're playing this like obviously you know it's a video game, but it almost feels like it could be another Lego movie. Like the graphics and everything are that good. Like it really feels like you're playing a Lego movie.
it really does. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
a great way of putting it. Like just the way her, you know, the sway in her plastic dress, you know, like
Yeah.
it's just it's really great. Like, but it totally gives you that feel. I mean, we essentially get to have the Lego battles we envisioned we were having when we were kids, right? I mean,
Mhm.
that's
Yeah.
basically what it boils down to. So,
Yeah.
but
It's awesome.
we obviously want to touch on Lego Star Wars, but you've been a huge fan of Star Wars games for quite some time.
Yeah.
What are some of the most notable titles for you when it comes to Star Wars games?
I think yeah, there's been a lot of good ones. Obviously, like Rogue Squadron was pretty revolutionary when it came out back in the day. But I think the gold standard is Jedi Fallen Order. You know that game I think is doing Star Wars right because they told their own canon story with it and you know tied in some of the iconic characters, but it I yeah that game made feeling like and oh right here in this scene if you're not watching I love that they use the Lego fire. So there's sections where they use real fire, but then there's also the Lego fire. um but yeah, I think Jedi Fallen Order, and I'm really excited for the sequel for that. But I you know that was my game of the year of gosh I don't know what was that 2019.
I believe so. that poor game got overshadowed by the Game Awards so bad.
Yeah, because it came out in December too. Those December games always are tough because if you it's not out long enough to compare it against this year's or last year's titles, right? And then if you're comparing it against next year's titles, it's forgotten by the time
Right.
it's the classic Halo syndrome. So you and I did this very different, by the way. Like I didn't break that door down. I put out the fire and went that way.
Oh, that's hilarious. When I
So
talked with Crawler and I went over this game on NPC, and he did both. He was like, I after I opened the door, I destroyed the gun and then rebuilt it over on the other side and put the fire out. So I was like, oh, that's
that's
interesting.
funny. Yeah,
So,
that's cool.
but no, I mean, Fallen Order really is. I mean, it really is the like. It's great to see Star Wars games evolve to that point, right?
Yeah,
And the Fallen Order for me did more than just create an incredible Star Wars game. It felt like an evolution of the Metroidvania genre to me. Like I felt like that game was much more than just an adventure game, but like the way they had you doing puzzles and
yeah,
the way certain power-ups would come into play, like right off the bat after you get off the garbage train or whatever, and you're on that planet, you're like, well, I see I can get there, but I can't do it yet. And I was
yeah,
like, this is Metroid. Like this is I love this. Like that was part of the major hook for me as soon as I saw things like that happening.
yeah,
Couple that with an incredible story, and the lightsaber gameplay I think was a little bit like you really I haven't gone back and played it on the harder settings because I felt like I started on a harder difficulty and I was like, I feel like I'm gonna need to just enjoy this one first, and then like
yeah.
if I want to go back and really struggle through it, I will. But
That
like
game's hard on even I played it on whatever the step up above normal was. I didn't play it on like the Grandmaster. Was it Jedi Knight?
I
Did
think it
it?
was, yeah.
I played it on Jedi Knight, and it was punishing. Like that game was tough, and it's all about timing and
Right.
yeah, the
Which you get
parries.
down, right? As you
You
as you put the time into it, you it all comes together. So
Yeah,
uh
and luckily enemies. I don't know if this is true of the hardest settings, but enemies have a tail, right? Like they turn red when they have an unblockable attack, so it's kind of gimmicky. Like
mm,
you see that coming, but thankfully, because otherwise I would have died a lot more than I already did.
for sure. For sure. I mean, historically Star Wars has a history. I'm sorry. Historically, Star Wars games are harder than most, it seems like. If you think back to like Super
Yeah,
Star Wars and Super Return Empire Strikes Back, Super Return of the Jedi, like those were not easy games. I remember renting Super Star Wars and I was like, I'm gonna have to buy this one. And then ended up buying it and finally playing through it. But like I remember playing it when I was like younger,
yeah,
and uh it it was, I mean, it, it was tough. Going back to it later on, I was like, okay, this is a little better, right? After I like I got Empire Strikes Back for Christmas and uh played it till 5 a.m. till or Christmas Eve, and then played it till 5 a.m. Christmas morning, So, and I didn't make it very far. I did not make it very far,
yeah.
but I had a smile on my face the whole time. Like I loved it. And then Empire,
Yeah.
and then Return of the Jedi, it started out weird. You're like on that weird hop, like speeder bike. I don't even know what the hell it was, but that's how that game started. And then finally you got to see, I mean, when I got to finally play as Luke with the green lightsaber and his when he was in all black, it was just like, okay,
We've
I'm
made it.
I'm I'm in my happy place right now.
And at the time, you probably thought that was the peak of gaming, right? Like the
Oh,
games will never
absolutely.
get any better than this.
Never get any better than this, right? But I mean, even doing the trench run and the Hoth and all that kind of stuff, like I imagine that was kind of a feat back in the day. And I'd have to go
Yeah.
back and look at it now to see what it looked like. But I remember like, you know, hitting the toe cable and going around the legs, and it was just like, this is this is it. This is it, baby.
Yeah.
we've
That's
we've
it.
peaked. We've peaked, because I don't know if you played any of the Star Wars games on the NES, which I'm fortunate enough to have. I think I have both of them, but I have one of them complete in box even.
Oh, really?
And
Wow.
they were not fun. Like They were like the first Star Wars game on NES was not enjoyable. It's like a worse, like a terrible version of Zelda almost, where you're just trying to
Huh.
explore and go all around, and I'm just like, this is not in the movie. That's all I remember thinking as a kid. Like, this is not in the
This,
movie.
this is not
Like,
accurate.
what this is, yeah, this is lame. I think you had to play as like 3PO or something trying to find R2, and I'm like, he has no way of attacking anything. How is this fun? What is going on here? So
Terrible. That's funny.
but I mean, you mentioned like Rogue Squadron and stuff.
Yeah,
Those were fantastic titles. Like,
they were
remember on
amazing.
GameCube?
Hmm. Yeah, and the I think that was the first game that had Dolby Pro Logic 2.
Oh yes.
And man, it sounded, because part of Star Wars, like Star Wars is, the space odyssey, or space opera, right? But the biggest part of Star Wars, I would say, or maybe more important than the story and the visuals, is the audio. You know, the huge score and the crazy sounds from TIE fighters, and Rogue Squadron had all that, and that was the first game that I remember that did it well. There's probably PC ones that I didn't play that also did it well, but yeah, it was such a cool thing, with your surround system to have, you know, Star Wars playing just like it's the movies on Laserdisc, you know.
Yep. Yeah. Yeah,
So
and that's no joke, and it really, like, Rogue Squadron was the game that you compared, like, if it, like the PS2 and the Xbox, it was like,
yeah.
show me a game that looks as good on those
Hmm.
as Rogue Squadron. And then Resident Evil came out, and that changed things, uh
Yeah. It
even
was,
more.
yeah,
But
absolutely. Even Luigi's Mansion, I know we're getting off topic, but GameCube handled shadows better than either of those other consoles.
yeah.
But
Yeah.
yeah, and then we talked prior to starting the show about Battlefront, and I know they screwed up a lot of stuff with this most recent Battlefront, but I'm excited to see what they do with the next gen Battlefront. I assume they're working on one. I know there's, what did they say, like 5 Star Wars games in the queue,
Yeah,
something
but
like that.
one of them got delayed to like 2028 or something ridiculous, like
Yeah,
that
how can you
Eclipse
delay a
game.
game that long?
Yeah, they're just like, yep, we can't do it. We can't do
What
it.
console is that even coming out for?
I
Like,
don't know.
man, yeah.
Yeah, I have no idea.
I but yeah, I would love to see a new Battlefront, and maybe make it a proper game. I know Battlefront's focus is multiplayer, and that's what it's supposed to be, and that should still be at the forefront. But maybe give us a little bit more single player aspects to it, just to please people, and no microtransactions. EA, yeah, I hope you learned your lesson. People are still upset about that one.
Oh yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. Have you played Squadrons?
Just a little bit, just a little bit.
Wasn't your cup of tea?
Um, Not necessarily that. I missed the window on it being, the game people were playing and talking about.
I see.
So like I went back. I don't remember. I have it, and I did install it and play a little bit, but it was by myself, and I moved on to something else.
Gotcha.
Is it
Cool.
worth going back and?
I would say go through the story at least. I'm halfway
Okay.
through because I was playing with my uncle, and
Yeah,
so I haven't picked it back up because we just haven't sat down together to play
got
more
it.
of it. But I often think about it because I'm like, oh, this was fun. Like, you were pulling off stuff like Poe in
Nice.
like
Okay.
the Last Jedi, when he's like whipping the ship around and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so it's pretty rad. But well, hey, that's gonna do it for morning PP. We got to come up with a better name. I don't know.
Press, wake up, press pause.
Wait,
I don't know. We'll figure it out.
press pause and wake up. I
Yeah.
don't know, something like that. All right,
We'll
bye
figure it out.
everybody.
Bye.
Maybe.